Richard, if we could jump back to the Rocky Horror Show, is it true that that was your first ever attempt at writing?
Yeah, I was out of work, so I felt that I'd like to write something that I'd like to be in.
You started writing it for fun in the evenings, spare time?
Yeah, I wrote it for my own entertainment. I sat down with a friend and discussed the sort of thing I'd like to be in and the sort of thing I'd like to go and see. And he suggested that we wrote it, and he went away and opened up a recording studio, and that took him about 6 months. And he came back and said, shall we start writing the musical? And I said, well, it's finished and it's going on at the Royal Court in a couple of weeks' time.
Did you ever sort of secretly imagine just how big it could all become?
No, it was supposed to run for 5 weeks only, and it ran for 7 years.
And it's also played nearly every country I can think of.
Yeah.
Did you know that sort of people like Tim Curry were going to be launched in the show?
No, I ran into Tim. He was staying in a flat above a laundrette called the Speed Queen, and I ran into him on the street, and and it went from there, really.
Well, that was like 10 years ago, and since then you've actually tried a few other shows, you've written a few other shows, none of which have taken off in the same way. Did you ever worry that the Rocky Horror Show might be beginner's luck? Or?
No, I only ever do things for my own pleasure anyway. If, however, they appeal to other people at the same time, then your quid's in. If they don't, then it's just on to the next.
Right, and if we leap up to date with Shock Treatment, we see Brad and Janet, who were the central characters of the Rocky Horror Show, sort of come back to life, and the same production team reassembled. I mean, do you feel good that this one could actually take off in the same way?
Well, we've done it, that's all I can say. If it takes off in the same way, that's fantastic, but we've done it and we've made a different musical. We've made a unique musical, and it only cost us $4 million, and if you compare that to Can't Stop the Music and Xanadu, then we've made a brilliant musical, film musical.
It's sort of the basic story is based on American television. Do you ever worry that people in this country who haven't perhaps been exposed to large doses of American television will find it hard to relate to?
No, I don't think so. I think the Americans find it harder to relate to than we do, because we can look at them and we can see the funny side of their culture, whereas they're a bit too close to it. They're actually living that life, and therefore it's difficult for them to see it as funny. I'm really an old-fashioned girl, and I like a beginning, a middle and an end, you know. And I think that's all it is, really. It's an action story. It's like Saturday morning pictures. In fact, the filming here is, from time to time, especially in the laboratory, got very like Saturday morning pictures. It was really good.
Well, I mean, the excitement to me of the film very much was in the fact that for once there wasn't, you know, something that was created by a very small group of people, which was then taken over by a sort of massive concern and sort of pulped out. But that in fact the people that originally created it and the actors had a lot to do with the, you know, creating the original role. That we've kept the sort of basic core of the original people through the various sort of transformations as the sort of monster has grown.
Here we go. Play back!
Now, I wrote it first of all for myself to while away the long winter nights when I was out of work. And I did a play at the Royal Court, the theatre upstairs, and Jim directed it. And I mentioned it to him that I was writing it. I hadn't even finished it. And he heard some of the songs and read the script that I'd got, as much as I'd got. And I just had to actually sort of round it off, resolve the whole story and round it off. And it was done at the theatre upstairs. There was no sort of hardship with it, really. It just all happened, really.
I think the two hardest things have been, well, one, the kind of extravagances, physical extravagances that I used on the stage were very theatrical ones, and I've tried in the film to make them filmic ones. I mean that will do as a film gesture, and on the stage one would maybe do that.
And what he's done in the music is, I think, something quite extraordinary, which is very similar to the actual plot, in that he's taken elements from many other things. He's taken sort of certain 50s elements, certain 60s elements, and put them together, but actually come out with something that's sort of completely unique.
I'm not a good musician, but I think that might be a strength because it stops you being clever, because I know a lot of musicians socially, and I know a lot of them sort of quite envy the way, I mean, not badly, but they do envy the way that I can knock out a simple tune, you know, because they I like all artists concerned with technique, and the technique, I think, sometimes gets in the way, you know.
It's very much a musical, and a lot of the energy of the whole event is in the music. I mean, I think that it is pastiche, certainly, but I think it sort of stands on its own, too. I mean, it's beginning to more and more, which is very nice.
I'm not setting out to shock anybody, really. But then again, I never have been, but I seem to have in various other things that I've done.
The fact that Frankenstein is now wearing a corset might sort of keep them entertained long enough.
I play Frankenfurter, who is a kind of new variation on the mad scientist of horror films that we all know and love.
Riff Raff, my character's paranoia. I mean, everyone sort of recognises, you know, that's that, when you're going to build me a new body, master. Stop that.
It is parody, but it also, I play it and think it as a kind of grisly reality. And Frankenfurter, as a variation on Frankenstein, is obsessed with image and the way that things look. And but I see him and play him as a kind of grisly, real freak.
I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania.
You've scarce been out of drag now for about close on 3 years. How sick of you are you of the part? How much now do you want to escape?
Well, it's sort of like Topsy, really. I mean, it's just growed, and one has to sort of go with it, really. I found making the film more annoying in that way than doing the play, because if you do the play, it's just 2 hours a day, and that you're actually in it doing it, and the rest of the day you're yourself. And doing the film, partly because I've never made one before, and so the work for me is total. I found it, for the first time, actually beginning to be a bit schizophrenic, in that if you spend the whole day in a £1.50 of Max Factor, at the end of the day, when you wipe it off, there's always a little bit left in the cracks.
I mean, I would like to see it get a used certificate, I suppose, as a sort of 1970s version of The Wizard of Oz.
I don't really mind what happens to it, as long as people remember it. And I always used to say, when I went to California, to LA, to watch them getting ready for the show over there was one or two of the actors that had no idea of the genre. And I used to say, when you're acting, it's just B-movie acting. And when you're singing, it's your rock and roll dreams come true.
And New York.
Then I went to see it in Long Island, and there was, I think, about 2,000 people there, dressed up. There was 360 lookalikes dressed up. There was 2,000 people in the audience. They all put newspaper over their heads. The entire action was acted on a stage in front of the screen, not on the floor level, but up on a stage. And it was the most total piece of theatre I've ever seen in my life.
Susan Sarandon and Barry Bostwick will not play Brad and Janet in the new movie.
Barry Bostwick was committed to doing other work, and Susan Sarandon wanted too much money. We couldn't afford her.
Jessica Harper is the new Janet in Shock Treatment.
Jessica Harper has one of the most exciting voices I've heard for a long, long time. It's very, very deep, it's almost baritone. It's a delightful voice. I think she'll actually do very well. She's been singing for years, as America knows, but I think this film is going to say to America, hey, we've got a great singer here that we've taken no notice of for a long time.
Who wrote the book, the music, the lyrics, and the screenplay, and who also plays Riff Raff, the hunchback, in the film. Welcome to Take Two.
Thank you.
I can't believe there's anybody left who hasn't seen the movie, but could you sort of give us a brief summary of the plot?
Well, it's Babes in the Wood story, basically.
I've heard it described as two virgins seduced by a transvestite from outer space. That pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
Well, that does, yeah.
It's the only movie I've ever heard of, too, with a fan club. How did it come to be a cult classic, do you think?
I've no idea. I wish I did know. I'm sure a lot of people wish they did know.
Do you think it's going to last another 10?
Who can say? I didn't even think it was going to last 5 weeks. Well, I thought we'd run for 5 weeks with the stage play, but that was it as far as I knew.
What does "don't dream it, be it" mean?
It means realize your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do something. The only person that can stop you doing something is yourself, basically.
So it's a message movie.
Well, it's a childish message, but a good one.
We have a clip, one of the dance scenes.
Beauty, what beauty.
You were quoted, too, as saying that we all feel like freaks sometimes.
Well, the truth of the matter is, of course, we all are freaks, aren't we? There is no norm, there is no standard, there is no one person that can stand up and say, I am the perfect example towards which all others should aspire. God made us in different ways, thankfully.
The party tonight, I understand it's going to be quite a bash. Can you tell us about it?
Well, yeah, there's going to be about 2,500 people there, and there's going to be look-alike contests, and there's going to be some live performances from some of the people that were in the movie, myself included. And, well, it's a great way to celebrate Halloween. The most amazing thing that Rocky's done, of course, is put the fishnets into Halloween. I think to have affected an already existing festive celebration is quite wonderful. I mean, if you were the person that had put the bunny into Easter, you'd be quite proud, wouldn't you?
You know, I saw this film in Sacramento, and I was really surprised by the people there. I mean, here it was, midnight in Sacramento. I didn't know that that kind of person existed in Sacramento in the first place, but I understand that one of the biggest contingents coming to the party tonight will be from Sacramento. You have people coming in caravans and buses from all over the country.
I know, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? I can't begin to explain why it should be so, but it's a happy band, I must say. All the people I've met over the years that are involved in this activity of following the show have been just delightful.
Well, it's logical that there should be a sequel, isn't it?
Well, yeah, who knows?
You don't think you should do that?
I've no idea. If the time is right and the idea is right.
It seems to me that I read about somebody doing something similar, not a sequel necessarily, but something that they hoped would develop in the same way. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't actually.
Where is it? I saw this, somebody else doing the same thing. Don't know about that, huh?
No.
Well, I asked you this before, but I'd like to know how much longer do you think this can go on in midnight movies throughout the country? Some people are saying that it's kind of losing its oomph, that people aren't throwing the rice with the same degree of enthusiasm.
Well, you've got to realise that I live in England and I don't really see a great deal of this activity. But Sal Piro, who follows it very closely, says ask me in another 20 years, and I'll give you the answer. I think some things, once they've gone, like the mousetrap, you know, once it's run for so long, it sort of generates its own perpetual motion. And who knows, it might finish tomorrow, but it may go on for the next 30, 40 years. I have great sympathy with the general public if it does so, but quite frankly, it's a wonderful pension scheme.
I assume you will be in costume tonight as Riff Raff.
Look, if I wore the most ordinary suit, I look as if I'm in fancy dress. So what the hell?
All right, Richard O'Brien, thank you very much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure.
Good luck at your party tonight. I wish I could be there. It sounds like fun.
Thank you.